Thank you. And now it's time for the Citizens Forum, a time for citizens to come before the Commission to speak on a topic that is not on the official agenda. Is there anyone here from the public today? Please come forward with your name and address.
My name is Trent Davis, address 2145 Hillside Drive, Salina.
Thank you.
I'm a physician, small business owner, local consumer, and a member of the Salina Area Tobacco Prevention Coalition. As you know, Salina is the first city in Kansas to have enacted legislation to protect indoor air for its citizens. The response from consumers of our restaurants has been overwhelmingly favorable. As a physician as well as a consumer, I'm doubly impressed by the benefits of healthy, clean indoor air. Relatively soon, Kansas can begin to save valuable health dollars now spent on tobacco-related illnesses. Despite the progress made, Salina still has many employees and consumers exposed to secondhand or involuntary smoking. As a member of the Salina Area Tobacco Prevention Coalition, I've been afforded the opportunity to speak to local civic and governmental assemblies to educate the public about this health hazard. According to the Kansas State Survey, more than 80% of Kansans now recognize that secondhand smoke isn't legal. Other Kansas communities and entire states have enacted clean indoor air ordinances more comprehensive than what now protects the lion. On behalf of the Tobacco Coalition, I would ask the City Commission to take decisive action towards enacting a true comprehensive clean indoor air ordinance.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here from the public? If not, we'll have no awards or proclamations, no public hearings or items scheduled for a certain time, so we'll go on to the consent agenda.
Item 6.1, approve the minutes of October 27, 2008. Item 6.2, resolution number 086563, authorizing a license agreement with Karen Pratt to allow the installation of a private water service line within the public right-of-way of North 13th Street.
Is there anything a commissioner would like pulled from the agenda? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve it.
Mayor, I'd move we approve the consent agenda. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. There is no development business, so we'll move on to administration.
Item 8.1, first reading ordinance number 08-10,470, levying Salina Business Improvement District Number 1 service fees for 2009.
Mr. Gage.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. In front of you is an action to establish for 2009 the service fees for the Business Improvement District. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. Many of you know the history of the Business Improvement District. It's been there since the 80s, and the fees that they're requesting are at the same level as they've been since 2003. A copy of the preliminary budget is also included in your was presented to you in May, and it includes their expenditures and expected expenditures for the next year. Given that no change, staff recommends approval of the fees, and be happy to answer any questions. Phil Coleman, the director of the Salina Downtown Inc., is also here if you have any questions specifically for her.
Questions of staff?
I had a quick question. I just probably noticed this, and it was called to my attention. If you have a business, and inside that business there are smaller businesses, everyone pays, each individual entity, each business pays that $200, is that correct?
Commissioner, it depends. We have a formula that's worked out, and it depends on the type of business and how they're located in there. You know, initially it was sort of a one-size-fits-all, and it's been a while, so I'm a little foggy on what our final formula is. I don't have the policy document in front of me, but that question was brought to us, and we had actually about 2 or 3 scenarios where that came up, so we tried to work through that so that we could allocate that more equitable. But the real question is whether, if it's, I will say, if it's a part of what we call the Santa Fe district, where you're dividing off the front, then that's a pretty easy question where you just divide it off. Where we're getting the questions are if there's a mixture of employment district and Santa Fe district in the same building. So we have a means of trying to work with that. So it wouldn't necessarily, if for example, you have a business that's a service business, that's an employment district business, and you're in the same basic part of the building as a Santa Fe district or retail business up front, we have a means so that you're not treated exactly the same. So there is a fee. They do both have to pay the service fee, but it's not just splitting up the frontage. There's a little different way of doing it.
Well, and the way the caller, when the citizen called me, they are inside an existing business, and they are not there, 8 to 5. And they received a bill for $200, and of course, their landlord, who is the business person, received a bill for $200, and then they have another person that works within that office that also received a $200. And if I'm reading this correctly, the cap on that is $1,200. So you can have 6 businesses inside one business, and everybody can be billed $200 for the BID. Is that correct?
If each of the businesses are truly independent of each other, you could have, in the same space, you could have, say, 6 entities that are billed. We do look at their corporate structure to make sure that they are actually independent of each other. That's a pretty important aspect of it. What you might
Independent, it's independent how? Totally, some of them work together and some of them are totally independent. So they felt they were being double billed.
Yeah, Phil, do you have some insight on this particular
I do.
one?
I have been working through this scenario with a couple of businesses downtown, and our determination is whether they have their own employee tax identification number, and they're paying independently sales tax to the state of Kansas. So those are the scenarios that we're using to determine that they are independent businesses within the district. On the Santa Fe district side, if they are there is one person that pays the frontage fees, because on the Santa Fe, those fees are determined by the linear feet of the building in the front. The primary business, the one that's on the lease, pays the primary Santa Fe Street district. The other people inside the business, inside that same location, would pay a service fee based on the employment district rate, which in that district is $120 a year. So if they have truly received a bill for $200, that would mean that they would have more than one employee in that business, or the equivalent of more than one employee in that business on an annual basis.
And if they do not?
Then they should certainly call our office. We've
Okay.
had no calls on this subject.
They called me.
I understand
Like I'm supposed to
that.
know this. Okay, I'll tell them to call
I
you.
understand it, and I would gladly take those calls for you and work through that with
Okay.
them.
Yeah, and Commissioners, what happens is if for some reason after they finish talking with Phil that they still have disagreement, they have the means in the ordinance to appeal that officially to my office, and I'll take a close look at it.
Okay.
So some of the financial services companies come to mind. Each one of those advisors is technically self-employed. How does that work with?
Are each of them paying 200?
We are currently, just before I came over here, working on the annual survey. The annual survey asks those people in the employment district to report how many employees they have on an FTE basis within their business. And they also ask them, their half-time employees, how many hours a week they work on an average basis, because some of them aren't full-time employees. That's the way we base our fees, are on the reports that the employers give us.
Okay.
Yeah, just a quick note too, that the state statutes require us to look at each business entity, and that's why we do that. It's not anything that we do different locally than the rest of the state. We're just trying to utilize the statutory guidance provided.
Any other questions of staff? Public comment? Bring it back to the commission for action.
Mayor Vignani, I move we approve on first reading 108-10470, levying Salina Business Improvement Number, District Number 1 service fees for 2009.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 0810470. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0.
Item 8.2, resolution number 086567, expressing intent to participate in the 2009 Environmental Protection Agency Coalition Assessment Grant and authorize the Kansas Department of Health and Environment to submit the grant application to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency.
Ms. Tasker.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. EPA's Brownfield program promotes the assessment, cleanup, and redevelopment of brownfield properties. A brownfield property is a property that either a buyer, a seller, or the community has concerns about the property's environmental status. The Kansas Department of Health and Environment has requested a partnership with North Central Rural Development Council, City of Salina, Saline County, and the City of Chapman for a 2009 EPA Coalition Assessment Grant. This grant would provide the coalition members with up to $1 million over the next 3 years for Phase 1, Phase 2, and cleanup planning. The ability to form a coalition is a recent change to the Brownfields program, which is intended to help streamline the process. A Phase 1 assessment typically is a review of records, past owners, type of facilities, and looking for any potential problems on the site. Phase 2 typically takes it another step and includes soil and groundwater testing. Once these assessments are done, it answers the environmental question and liability for the property. KDHE would administer the assessment grant, and they would also prepare the grant and submit it to the Environmental Protection Agency. The grant application is November 14th with notification of award in the spring of 2009. There is no physical impact to the City of Salina for this grant application. It is recommended that the City Commission approve resolution number 08-6567 expressing the intent to participate in the 2009 EPA Coalition Assessment Grant and authorize the Kansas Department of Health and Environment to submit the grant application to the Environmental Protection Agency. I would be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Could you briefly explain to me how this works? $1 million goes into a pot. How's that distributed?
Basically, each of the groups or the coalition members would have some sites that they would like to have evaluated for Phase 1 and Phase 2. As a group, there's a determination as to which sites are going to be looked at, and as you go through the process over the 3-year period, as a site is done, then those dollars drop out of the fund. There's not a set amount for Saline County or a set amount for the City of Salina. It's the process of just going through the whole group looking at needs over the next 3 years.
These properties, for instance, in Salina, they are properties that the city owns, properties that a developer has that they want to do a Phase 1 on.
They're just any particular property. It could be in our downtown mill district or that area. We haven't assigned any specific properties. We've sent a general list of the areas that we could look at for that may have potential impacts from this.
So we do have a list.
We have a list of general areas, but not specifically property or property owners that we'd like to have looked at. But none of that has been identified to a specific list at this point.
And there's no strings attached?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Other questions of staff? Thank you. Any public comment? If not, I'll bring it back to the commission.
Mayor, I'd move we adopt resolution number 08-6567 expressing our intent to participate in the 2009 EPA Coalition Assessment Grant and authorize the Kansas Department of Health and Environment to submit the grant application to the EPA.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt resolution 08-6567. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0.
Item 8.3, resolution number 08-6561, authorizing an agreement with Wilson & Company for the Magnolia Commons addition.
Ms. Tasker.
I'll have him bring up the attachment on the screen there. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. We're hoping we can bring that up. Magnolia Development Partners is proposing to develop a 40-acre tract in the area to the southwest corner of Magnolia Road and Interstate 135. Currently, there are no public water, sanitary sewer, or streets serving this area. This 40-acre tract is known as the Magnolia Commons Edition and is scheduled to be presented to the Planning Commission and City Commission in November. Development in this area has been on and off for the last 10 years. Toby has it brought up now. Basically, we're looking at this 40 acres in this location, with this being Magnolia Road and Interstate 135. In 1997, Wilson and Company completed a water and sanitary sewer system analysis to develop alternatives and costs for providing water and sanitary sewer to this area. Also in 1997, Wilson and Company completed a final design for the replacement, relocation, and abandonment of existing wastewater lift station number 47. There's an existing wastewater pump station about at this location that handles this residential area, and as a part of this overall development, we were going to abandon it and bring that flow into the proposed new pump station. It's a very old pump station needing upgrade, so this is the proposed location for the new wastewater lift station number 47. The construction of these improvements was halted due to the developers terminating their development projects in this area. Then in 2000, Wilson and Company completed a partial design for the water system improvements, which was a connection in Centennial Road and a 12-inch water loop following this general location. In the 2000 project, it had somewhat of a different shape on the east side. It followed a roadway more down the center of the property. But again, that project was halted due to the developers terminating their development projects in the area. Currently, Wilson and Company is providing engineering services to Menards, which is, we recently read in the newspaper, is located in this corner of the development, and also to Magnolia Development Partners for the entire 40-acre tract. The attached agreement for the professional services contains three main components. One is revisions to wastewater pump station number 47. Basically, it has to do with relocation of how the lines come into the facility, and we're also bidding submersible type pump station versus a wet well, dry well station. And the second component is completion of the design drawings for the water loop and the sanitary sewer system pump station and this connection and the abandonment of the old station. And in addition, Virginia Drive, which is virtually off of Magnolia Road to this point with the cul-de-sac, and right now we're calling this Virginia Court, this portion of the road, and widening of Magnolia Road to allow for a westbound left turn lane into Virginia Drive. The project schedule has been condensed greatly to meet the developer's project schedule. The developer was fortunate enough to get their plat and all their work done about a month earlier than the original schedule, so we keep getting a little tighter schedule. All of the work is basically to be complete and ready for use by July 3rd of 2009. And this is a fairly aggressive schedule, and to meet this, the wastewater lift station would have a bid letting in mid-December with construction beginning in January of '09. This is to allow some time frame for delivery of the pumps and controls. That could be a 3 or 4 month process. The water, sanitary, sewer, and street improvements would have a bid letting at the end of January of 2009 with construction beginning in February of 2009. And again, with all of the work complete by July 3rd of 2009. This agreement is written in a cost-plus fixed-fee format with an amount not to exceed of $97,285. This amount cannot be exceeded without the approval and supplemental agreement with the City Commission. If approved, the funds for this agreement will be allocated from the construction fund and will be rolled into a special assessment project temporary note in 2009. The preliminary construction cost for the public improvements included in this agreement is roughly $2.2 million. Staff recommends that the City Commission approve the agreement with Wilson and Company Incorporated, engineers and architects of Salina, Kansas, in an amount not to exceed of $97,285. Two representatives from Wilson and Company, Jason Slickburn and Tim Miles, are here, and at this time we would be glad to answer any questions that you might have about the project.
How much of this project is in the city limits, and I'm of the belief that a lot of it is not in the city limits. When do we address that issue, and how does that play into all this?
When the plat work is complete, this 40 acres will be the portion that's in the city limits.
So all the 12-inch water loop is outside the city limits?
That's correct, Commissioner. What will happen is we expect that probably to be annexed in as the other property develops based on the demand. So easement, part of the process obviously is to get the easements for that. We've been working on that and are very close, but those are all, the easements will have to be obtained prior to the recording of the plat for the 40 acres that will be annexed.
Okay.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Is that lift station abandoned now or will be abandoned?
We're currently using it, and it needs major upgrades, and it was more cost-effective to abandon it and transfer the flow to the new lift station
When you
site.
abandon a waste station like that, what happens to it? What do you do to it?
In the cases that we've done before, we've typically removed everything that's above ground and removed the structure to 6-8 feet below ground, filled it in, backfilled over it, so it's basically looks like a clean site when we leave.
But everything underneath is still there?
The majority of it is still there. A concrete box would basically be what's left, the wet well for the station.
And just out of curiosity, is there another one further south or further west?
Another lift station?
Yes. I mean, it's not on that map, but I was just thinking of all that housing development down there, and now you're moving this up a little bit, but is that going to be a problem?
This entire area is handled by this lift station here. Then there's another lift station here, and they transfer flow into a line that ends up in what we call Pump Station A, or the pump station at the old
Okay, so it will,
plant site. So
okay, it will be sufficient.
it finds its way through the path.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions of staff? Thank you. Any public comment? No, I'll bring it back to the commission.
Mayor, I move that resolution number 086561, authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Wilson and Company, Inc., engineers and architects for engineering services for the Magnolia Commons addition improvements, be approved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt resolution number 086561. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Do we have any other business before the commission?
No, Mayor, I just want to make a quick acknowledgement. If you're wondering why you have a group of Boy Scouts in the back of the room, these are members of local Salina Boy Scout Troop 2, and they're in the process of earning their citizenship and the Community Merit Badge. So
It was very nice to have you all here. Look forward to seeing you again, I hope. If not, I would accept the motion for adjournment.
So moved.
It's been
Second.
moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. We're adjourned.